Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new here. Today I'm starting a two-part series called Fall Fun. I'm showing you a do-it-yourself craft, 2 delicious recipes, and I'm setting up my kitchen table in a buffet style that's very easy and inexpensive to do, and I'm also showing you some healthy foods to put on that table. So I'm filming everything in one day, but I'm breaking it up into 2 different videos. In today's video, the do-it-yourself craft are adorable pumpkin wine glasses. I'm also making the pumpkin cheesecake brownies. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the fall fun. The first thing I'm going to be making is a decoration for my table that night, and I'm going to have 3 pumpkin wine glasses. So I'm going to need a wine glass, which you can find at the dollar store. I'm going to need yellow paint, orange paint, brown paint, and green paint. And I already have my colors here ready to go. And I'm going to need a little spongy brush, just like this one. This one's perfectly, and a smaller one just in case. I have a paper towel here and some water in case I make a mess. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sponge paint all of the bottom part of the glass. You're going to want to put it on a solid surface so it doesn't slide around. And I'm just going to dip the corner of my paint into orange, just the corner. And I'm just going to dab it. I'm going to hold it steady and just dab it all around. And I'm going to do that for one whole coat for the whole part of the glass. And then I'm going to repeat. This paint that I'm using is acrylic paint. It is not glass paint. So it will wash off if I get it wet. When I'm finished painting it, I'm going to spray it with polyurethane, and that will keep this kind of paint on. So as you can see, I'm just doing an even pressure throughout just to coat it with one coat of orange. Okay, now I'm just going to let it sit for about 5 minutes and let it dry. It's been 5 minutes and the glass is dry. So our first coat is done, and now it's time for the second coat of orange. And I'm using a craft sponge just because it's going to give it a textury base, and that's kind of what we want our pumpkin glass to look like. I'm just going to go back through, give it all one more layer, and then if I see anything that needs to be touched up, that's when I'll fix it. While I'm putting the paint on with this, I'm just doing a steady pressure of pushing down and up and down and up and down and up. I don't want to do strokes because if I do that, it's just going to peel off my paint and then I may have to start all over again. So I'm not going to do that. So you just put some paint on the corner and just push down, up, down, up, down, up, and just do it at a quick, even, steady pace. Okay, so now that I have the second coat on, I'm not going to let this one dry. I'm going to go straight into using my yellow with a little bit of orange, and I'm just going to use my fingers. So I'm just going to dab my finger into it, and I'm going to take this one side, and I'm just going to kind of in the middle make a few little dabs there. And then I'm going to turn it and make another one there. So I did the yellow. I made 5 yellow dots on each side, and now I'm going to take my finger, the same finger, and I'm just going to dab the yellow. It's not going to come high and it's not going to come low. It's going to stay on the top, so it highlights the side to make it look like a pumpkin. So I'm just going to dab it, and then I'm going to use another finger to go around and dab the side of it to where my wet orange will kind of blend in with the yellow. And then I'm going to rotate and do the next one. Might want to put just a little bit more yellow here. Remember, you cannot make a mistake on this. It's a pumpkin. They all look different. You just make it to where you think it looks good if you make one of these. Okay, so now that I've finished the yellow, which were my highlights on my pumpkin, now I'm going to use the brown for the shadows. I just need to rinse my fingers off because I'm still going to continue to use my fingers for this. So I'm going to take one finger and just dip it into my brown and orange mixture. And I'm going to go in between two of the yellows, and I'm just going to do a little dab. And then turn and go in between these two yellows and a dab. In between those, in between those, and in between those. Just like that. Then I'm going to get a little bit more brown, and I'm going to do two little dots above and two below. Okay, so now I'm just going to dab, going in one direction all the way down to the bottom of the cup, and then go all the way back up to the top. So now after you get the first row of brown, and you're just using your fingerprint going up and down to kind of mix it in, then you'll go and just do the rest of the brown lines. Now while I was making this, I thought that this strip right here was a little bit too brown. So I'm just putting a little bit of orange on my finger, and I'm going on the outer sides of that strip, and I'm just trying to kind of blend it in a little bit so it's not as brown. So as soon as I get to a point to where I am getting happy with my brown stripes, I'm going to stop and start on the stem. So I got my paint exactly the way I wanted it, and now I let it dry. Now it's time to put the stem on. I'm going to take the same sponge brush that I had, and now I'm going to use green. I'm only going to use the corner, and I'm going to do the same thing I did on the orange. I'm just going to start dabbing. Remember, I'm not going to use strokes. I'm just going to dab it so it gives me that nice kind of bumpy texture. And I am going to come down just a little bit into the orange. Just a little. And it's going to look different on each side because a pumpkin does look different. They are not all the same. So when I get the part of my glass done, I'm just going to kind of put my hand in there to hold it steady. And I could set it down, but I don't think I really need to. And I'm not going to do the bottom, I'm just doing this part. Okay, then I'm just going to put it back down and let that dry completely. So now that it's completely dry, I'm going to put a coat of polyurethane on it so that will prevent it from scraping and it will give it a nice shine. I sprayed it with polyurethane and I waited a few hours to make sure that it was completely dry and not sticky. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some garnish around the top. I found this in Hobby Lobby. You can use whatever you want if you make it yourself. I'm going to have a leaf. I just got one that had a little bit of glitter to it, and a votive. So the first thing I did is I cut some of my garland. This is about 14 inches. And the great part about this is you don't need any string or anything to secure it. You just wrap it around. So I'm just going to get them even, and I'm going to wrap one around, and it's going to stick just like that. Then I'm going to take a pencil, and I'm going to take each end, and I'm just going to roll my pencil into it just to give it that kind of pretty curly Q look. And then you can just slip your pencil right out. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Then I'm going to get my leaf and I'm just going to tuck it inside. I shouldn't have to hot glue it because it's not going to move a lot. I'm just going to have it on my centerpiece. And then I'm going to take my votive and just put it right on the top. So as you can see, I've made 3 different pumpkin wine glasses. They're all different sizes, and I think that makes it a really nice look for my table. A favorite treat that I like to make in the fall is pumpkin cheesecake brownies. And what I need to do to start with is my favorite brownie box recipe, which is the Ghirardelli. And I'm going to use 2 of those because I like my brownies thick. So I'm just going to follow the basic directions on the back, and I'm going to spray my pan first. I'm going to use 2 eggs. I'm going to use about a half a cup of chocolate chips because I love to make them a little more chocolatey than they actually are. I need 2/3 of oil because I am doubling the recipe, and then I'm going to need a half a cup of water. So the first thing I do, I'm going to take out both packages and put them in my mixer. And this recipe actually has 3 different layers. So the first one is going to be just to make the brownies like the box says, as directed. And then the second layer is going to be the pumpkin cheesecake layer. And the third layer is going to be chocolate ganache on top. And a lot of people hear that word, chocolate ganache, and they're like, oh my goodness, I don't think I can do that. But it's very simple. It's basically melted chocolate. Very easy. So we're going to put that down and lock it in place. I'm going to go ahead and put in my water. And then my 2/3 vegetable oil. I'm going to add 2 eggs. And then give it a stir. Okay, so now I'm just going to let that drip inside there. I'm going to go ahead and add some chocolate chips. Remember, that is not on my box of brownies, but because they are so good and I like my brownies really gooey, I'm going to go ahead and add that in and then just give them a stir in a moment just with my hand. Okay, take my pan. This is a 9x9 pan. I'm just going to spray it really well so my brownies do not stick. And then pour them inside. Okay, so now I'm going to put this in my preheated 325-degree oven, and I'm going to cook it for about 35 to 40 minutes. So while the brownies are baking, I'm going to go ahead and do the next layer, which is going to be the pumpkin and the cheesecake. And I have everything here that we're going to need. So I have here 8 ounces cream cheese, 1 cup pumpkin puree, which this can is more than that. I'm just going to need half the can, half a cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon vanilla, 1 teaspoon pumpkin pie spice, a pinch of salt, and 8 ounces heavy cream, which I'm going to whip to stiff peaks. So I'm taking my 8 ounces of heavy whipping cream. I'm just going to pour it into a bowl, and I'm going to mix it until it gets nice and stiff, kind of foamy peaks, and I'll show you when we get there. Okay, so now that it's thick, I'm just going to move it to the side, and I'm going to bring my other bowl back and put the rest of the ingredients inside. We're going to start with our cream cheese. And then half can of this. Our brown sugar. In there. I already have the vanilla and the salt and the pumpkin pie spice right in here. Okay, so then I'm just going to mix all of that up. Okay. So now I'm going to put in the whipped cream now, the whipping cream that I'd already whipped up. Put that in there now. And then I'm just going to stir it with my hands. Okay. So now I'm going to set this aside until the brownies come out and they've been cooled. The topping for our brownies is going to be a very simple ganache. And like I said, some people think that sounds complicated, but it's just basically melted chocolate. And what we're going to use for that is we're going to use some baker's chocolate, the semi-sweet. And I've just kind of crunched mine up a little bit in smaller pieces. We just need 4 ounces of that. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of butter. And we're going to need 4 ounces of the heavy whipping cream. I'm going to heat up the whipping cream and the butter in the microwave for about 40 seconds. And now I'm going to fold my chocolate into it. And then just stir it around. Let it sit there for just a moment so it can get warmed up and melt a little bit. Okay, so now the chocolate is melting. So remember, I only heated up the butter and the whipping cream, and then when I put my chocolate in it, I waited about maybe 3 to 4 minutes, just letting it sit in the hot whipping cream and butter, and then I stirred it and it is melting. Let me see if you guys can see this. It's melting pretty well here, drippy chocolate. When it completely cools, it'll be a little bit thicker. Just want to give it a good stir all the sides. That beautiful chocolate smells so good. Okay, then I'm going to let this sit and completely cool. So now that the brownies have cooled, I'm going to put the first layer on, which is the pumpkin cheesecake. So we're just going to put that all over it. Look at that. Smells so good. And this is definitely something that's going to need to chill. So this part of it can thicken up on top. I'm just going to put that all over. Okay, got a lot of that in there. Okay, I'm going to show you guys this. That's what we have so far. Looks pretty good. And then now we're going to take our chocolate ganache, which has really thickened up. Take a look at that. Really gotten thicker. So we're going to put that, just kind of drizzle that all over. And then we'll take our scraper and kind of ice it all over. Okay, and just kind of put a thin layer right on top. There we go. So I'm going to chill this in my refrigerator until I have my fall party with my family. Remember, I'm making a two-part episode for you guys. Today I made the brownies and I made the pumpkin wine glass for the centerpiece for my table. And then next week, I'm showing you how I made a Frankenstein punch and how I made a beautiful display for a buffet so that night the kids can come and go and I can make sure that they eat something better than just chocolate all night. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and I hope you enjoy the next one. If you saw something you liked and you're ready for fall, give me a thumbs up, and you guys have a great week and I hope you're doing well. See you next time.